Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses, and the following is an article taken from Raised from the Rose Cross, the Rosicrucian Fellowship Magazine, Volume 14, Number 5, September 1922. The Rosicrucian Movement and Freemasonry by John H. Landis. In Max Hendel's writings, there are numerous unmistakable hints that must lead the reader to the belief that the Rosicrucian movement and Freemasonry are in some way allied and have one common purpose and aim. To a student of both systems, it soon becomes apparent that they are twin organizations, having sprung from one and the same parent school. To suppose that the great similarity of principles and purpose which characterizes these two movements could be incidental, an accident, or coincidence, as it were, would be a mere guess of the thoughtless or the uninstructed, who are ignorant of the fundamental basis of which both structures rest. Those who look deeper and examine the foundations will find that both organizations rest on the firm conviction that man's true being is in the Spirit and ultimately in God, the source of all being. That the individual soul is a spark from God, having lost itself in the mazes of terrestrial existence for a time, that there is a way for it to return to its source, but that each soul must use its own initiative, must rise by its own efforts, and must take full responsibility for each and all of its own acts. That conformity to the laws which govern human existence will bring man into harmony with the natural and spiritual forces and to a union with God, which constitutes salvation, and further that both these schools teach their pupils a way which will lead them by the narrow path of self-conquest and service to the desired end. The two movements in their present form took their beginning in the dark ages of Europe, when a benighted, bigoted ecclesiastical estate ruled the religious world of that continent with an iron hand, suppressing with fire and with sword, by cunning and with the aid of civil law, all thought and all activity inimical to its rule and its supremacy, stamping out independent thought and action, more especially in things spiritual, but scarcely less in matters pertaining to the common life of man. All its efforts were directed towards the maintenance, strengthening, and establishment of this ecclesiastical hierarchy. This power in the name of God and religion took captive the conscience of men, constituting itself, but more especially its chief representative, the sole arbiter in spiritual matters, and substituting for personal responsibility a system of vicarious religion, which relieved the individual of all such responsibility as long as he was subject and obedient to this ecclesiastical power which ruled over him. Such a condition must needs be followed by most serious consequences for man as a spiritual being, bringing in its wake depravity and ruin in the same degree that the hierarchy became more worldly and more estranged from the truth, serving its own interest rather than the true and living God. Need we picture the night of thick darkness that hung over Europe about the 12th and 13th centuries? All independent research was suppressed, the souls of men were heavy, yearning for daybreak. When then were the watchers, the elder brothers who kept vigil over humanity? Were they asleep? Had they suffered to be extinguished the holy fire that was to light man's way? No, they were not unmindful of the extremity to which their wards had been brought. In the midst of this deep darkness, the spirit that watched and brooded over this again pronounced the fateful dictum, "Let there be light," and there was light, kindled through the agency of invisible forces behind the scenes, who were known by the followers of the Rosicrucian teachings as the Elder Brothers. Sudden changes are harmful, and the divine powers do not work with haste. Too sudden and too bright a light would have blinded and confused man, and might have driven him deeper into the fold of darkness whence he was to be delivered. So the All-Father kindled the holy fire of two altars, hidden from the eyes of the multitude, but accessible to all sincere seekers who were duly prepared to receive it. On these two altars it has since been burning, sometime in secrecy and hidden from the eyes of all but a few, sometimes freer or brighter so as to attract even the eyes of its sworn enemies, the Orthodox clergy of the times. From that holy fire has been kindled many a lamp that has carried light into dark places. These two altars represent the esoteric and the exoteric aspects, respectively, of the same great movement, and were designed to meet the needs of the two classes of aspirants. Those on the one hand who, because of previous development, can penetrate more directly to the heart of things through strong intuition and constructive imagination, to whom the Spirit of things can reveal himself, and who seek to unravel the mystery of life and of God through self-knowledge, by a process of intense concentration of the will, and by living a holy life, they endeavor to awaken the life forces that lie slumbering in the human soul and incite them to normal activity, by which process they seek to gain liberation from the personal self and gain conscious oneness with the universal spirit. And on the other hand, those who have not traveled so far on the path of devotion and development as able to learn by direct perception, but who are ready and willing to prepare themselves by practicing the virtues of self-restraint, helpfulness, and brotherly love, and by learning to read the symbols behind which are hidden the mysteries of being and of progress towards the knowledge of God. In this matter, a way was opened for seekers from both sides, those who derive their growth more from subjective activities, and those who require objective demonstrations and labor for their progress, development, and self-expression. In these two altars and the two paths that lead to them will easily be recognized: the Rosicrucian Movement and Freemasonry, both of which spring, as has been stated, from one common source, which lies deeply buried in the far distant past. They are the two youngest offshoots from the trunk of the ancient mysteries to bear leaves and fruit for the healing and the feeding of the nations. The methods employed by these two schools naturally must differ, but their aims and ends are the same. The Rosicrucian mystic follows the path of devotion, meditation, and concentration, by which means he rises his soul to God and fits himself for service. He looks behind and through physical existence to find the powers in the great beings through and by which created things exist. He seeks for the substance which causes manifestation. And as this substance cannot be perceived by means of the bodily senses, he develops finer and higher senses which penetrate through the properties of the material envelopes of things, and by means of which he perceives their inner structure and their spiritual qualities. The training given by the other school is of a different nature. It emphasizes proper conduct in all walks of life and appears primarily as a school for character building, preparing the individual to take his proper place in human society as a useful unit. But there is concealed within its ceremonies a practical knowledge of the human soul. Like the Rosicrucian school, it has no dogma to defend. It does not even theorize as the origin of the soul or the attributes of God, simply affirming the fact that man is an individualized intelligence with independent choice and rational volition, and that he is responsible for all his acts to himself and to God, the universal intelligence and the grand architect of the universe. It teaches him that man can and must perfect himself individually by governing himself according to the innermost laws of his nature, by obeying natural laws, and by working after a definite design or pattern which has been worked out by the wise of past ages, through experiences that have crystallized into a certain well-defined wisdom of life. It may be called a school of ethics derived from a science of morals based on a true understanding of the most fundamental principles underlying human condition, endeavoring to lead its pupils by graduated stages upward upon the winding stairs of human knowledge to the chamber of wisdom and of light, where sooner or later everyone who seeks honestly and lives the life will be brought face to face with his own soul, which he will recognize, and with it the wisdom and true purpose of all his training. Thus it will be seen that both schools agree in all essentials. They were both designed to teach man to find the way to his own soul amidst the darkness of physical existence, to self-reliance through conquest of the lower self, which leads to conscious union with God, the great and final purpose of life on earth. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Also, please consider giving a little to Patreon if you can. Every little bit is much appreciated and very helpful. Both of which spring as has